Les pido un gran aplauso para recibir por primera vez en Latinoamérica a Josh Dream.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for inviting me into your beautiful city. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. There has always been an imbalance of power, especially within organizations of I'm the boss, you're the employee, you have to do everything that I say, and if you don't like that, you can leave because someone else will do it for me. And because of this dynamic, leaders have got away with some pretty poor behavior. Well, those days are changing because we can see it now. Does anyone remember this guy? At the height of the pandemic, this gentleman got on a Zoom call and fired 900 employees on a Zoom call. Someone recorded it, shared it with all of the major publishers, and it went everywhere. And he was asked to take a leave of absence. Or how about Ellen DeGeneres, whose mantra is be kind? That was her brand, right? You guys are brand people. You know the power of Ellen's brand. It was be kind. And then her employees stood up and said, she's actually not very nice. In fact, this is a toxic culture. And they started talking about it.
Staffers alleging a culture of racism, fear, and intimidation. BuzzFeed says 36 former employees also allege harassment and sexual misconduct from top producers.
She was at the height of her career, in her 18th season. I mean, no one was more powerful on TV than Ellen DeGeneres. And a few employees stood up. She had to cancel her show. Now she rarely makes public appearances. There's been this era, like the early 80s, 90s, the 2000s, of bad bosses. We kind of liked Steve Jobs. He was mean, but he got it done. These are examples of CEOs who promoted a culture of positivity, diversity, equity, inclusion. But on the inside, they were using their power to do whatever they wanted. And employees stood up, and every single one of these CEOs were asked to step down. We live in the era of employee power. And that's what I want to talk to you today about. What is employee power? How can we own that as individuals? How can leaders harness that to be your competitive advantage? I believe that employee power is going to be the new competitive advantage for most organizations. It's an organization that people want to be in. They feel good. And employee power is unlocked through employee experience design. Remember that. Employee experience design, that's what we're going to be talking about. But first, let's get a working definition for what employee power is. According to Forrester, employee power actually has three facets. The first is established power. Whether it's given in the form of a title or developed through an expertise, established power is an employee who has power because they were given power. The second is collective power, the unionization of the workforce. Back in the day when the Industrial Revolution started, we had children working in factories all day long with no weekends. And that wasn't okay. So the employees got together, they unionized, and we still see unions today. I don't know how much you follow American news. In LA, Los Angeles, teachers went on strike last week. They went on strike because they were being paid very little money to live in Los Angeles, which is extremely expensive. This is how they leverage their power. And finally, the last, and arguably the most important, I'm going to be spending most of my time here today with you, is engaged power, or the choice that employees make on a daily basis to give 100% of their effort or not. You can lead a horse to water, you can't force them to drink. You can hire employees and they will do contractually what they're obligated, but no more than that. They have that power, and we need to talk about that. Why does it matter? Is because it is extremely expensive. Look at some of these numbers. According to Gallup, which they have been tracking employee disengagement for years. It's the lowest that it's ever been in a decade. 79% of employees in the workforce are disengaged. How much does that cost? 34% of an employee's annual salary, which equals $7.8 trillion in lost productivity. Guys, that number is so big, it's so hard to fathom it. But you can actually calculate the cost of disengagement within your organization today with just a little bit of math. Imagine you are a small business owner, you have 200 employees who are making, say, like $30,000 each on average a year. Well, 200 employees, 79% of them is about 158. 34% of their $30,000 annual salary is a little over $10,000. $10,000 times 158 is $1.6 million in lost productivity. It's extremely expensive to have these employees who are disengaged. And that's just employees who are there today. What if someone quits? That's 150% of their annual salary is what it costs the business. Recruiting is cutthroat. It is so hard to find top talent in today's world. I could quote stats at you guys all day. I love this stuff. I nerd out on it. That's what I studied at Harvard. But let's just simplify it for a second. Employees are unhappy. Can you feel that with me for a second? Employees, simply put, are unhappy. Could you imagine taking this fact to the boardroom? You've got all of the executives sitting around at this table. They're talking about the business and what's going on. And then you present the fact, employees are unhappy. What do you think the response is? I know that every organization is different, but at the top of the bell curve, you get meh. I mean, work sucks. That's just how it is. We got to work hard. We got to grind it out so we can earn the money. We got to keep driving with this capitalistic system. And no one ever stops and thinks, like, where did we get to the point where productivity became everything? Employees are unhappy. What if you changed one word, though, and you said, customers are unhappy? That's a 5-alarm fire for organizations. You guys know this, right? You're in marketing and branding. We got to keep our customers happy. If our customers are not happy, they've got plenty of options. They're going to go somewhere else with their money. And yet, for some reason, when we talk about employees, But aren't employees like customer number one? Aren't they more important? I will make the argument that they are more important than your customers, because how can you communicate a positive experience to your clients and your customers if your employees are not happy? The message doesn't get through. And that's super important. Reasons why employees are unhappy? There's a lot here, but this was a study done by Bamboo HR. They found that low pay is obviously on there. If you're not getting paid enough, obviously you're going to be unhappy. But that's only 12%. Look at the rest. We've got unsupportive boss, limited career growth, lack of meaning, lack of work-life balance. These are all cultural. These are all about the culture of the organization. They don't like how it feels. And so we've got to design experiences for them that are amazing. Look at just this one right here, work-life balance. What's the battle that's happening right now? RTO, return to the office. The data already shows that employees were just as productive, if not more, remote. So why are we forcing them to go back if they don't want to? I understand we're in the economy doesn't look great right now. We're seeing layoffs happen. And so we go back to the office, but are we happy about it? And when things improve, are we going to stick around? That's employee power. So I'm just setting the framework. If your employee comes to you and says, I'm unhappy, we need to change our approach from an industrial revolution kind of approach to today. And this will be illustrated by my son, Liam, in this little TikTok.
I'm unhappy.
I said get back to work!
I'm unhappy.
All right, you're fired. Get out of my office.
Okay. I'm unhappy.
I know, but if you persevere and work hard, you can achieve your dreams.
I'm unhappy.
Please don't leave us!
Please take this off.
Give him a round of applause. Come on, isn't he great? He puts up with me. What it means for businesses. It's not hard to see that the productivity of the top line is far significant than the other lines. This was a study done by Gartner, and the top 25% of organizations that were doing employee experience design not only saw a lot less engagement, they saw 3x returns on assets, 2x return on sales. It goes the complete opposite way. They stay longer, they're happier. A happy employee is a productive employee. That's the importance of understanding why employees have power and how we, the next generation of leaders, can help them. So, I want to go a little bit deeper if that's okay. Let's get into the weeds about what employee power actually looks like. I want to talk about the 3 facets of engaged power. The first is the power of withholding info and effort, the power of shaping culture, and the power of sharing experience. The power of withholding effort and information. Let's just do a little survey right now real quick. By raise of hands, how many of you have ever taken one of those employee engagement surveys? You know what I'm talking about? Raise your hand if you've ever taken one of those. Are you guys just being is this lunchtime right now? We just don't want to raise our hands? Or have you seriously never taken an employee engagement survey? Raise your hand. It's typically a 70 to 100 question survey, usually administered once a year, and it's how do you feel about your work? Raise your hands if you've ever done that. I need to see this. The house lights are on, come on. Okay. Another question. How many of you were honest? She laughs. I already know your vote. Seriously, I need to see how many of you are actually honest. Okay, great. How many of you were honest because you knew that the company had your best interest at heart and they wanted this information so that they could design a better experience for you? Come on. It's so funny, even in this setting, you're oh, should I raise my hand or not? I don't trust you, dude. I don't trust these people around me. Isn't that the problem? Employee engagement is a huge industry. There are a lot of tools out there that are working to solve it. It's an $870 million industry. It's typically survey data, and they track those insights, and they feed that information back to you. The one thing they can't account for, though, is trust. How do we get employees to trust the organization? It's hard. And why should employees trust their boss? Why should they trust the organization? Do you trust me? We're going two-way now. I'm not sure if you trust me. And if I'm honest, maybe that data will be used against me. Maybe I'll get fired because I'm honest. Or, a myriad of reasons why you're not honest. Employee engagement only works if we're being honest, and that's not on you, employee. That's on the organization. The power to withhold effort is another thing that's really hot right now. Quiet quitting. Thank you, TikTok. It's everywhere. The definition of quiet quitting is doing the minimal important work without going above and beyond or taking work home. Isn't that what jobs are supposed to be? That's what they used to be. All of a sudden, for some reason, we have this expectation that because we can reach you at any time on your phone, we can email you at 7 p.m., we need this deliverable. Oh, we just fired someone, so we need you to pick up the slack. There is so much pressure on employees, and they're burning out. And their only option is to quiet quit, which means I'm just going to do what is required of me. I don't think it's a bad thing based on the current structure of work. I think that's a way that people are they're going to take their mental health and they're going to prioritize it over the deliverables of the company. Power of withholding information and effort. The next one is the power of shaping culture. What's interesting is I think a lot of leaders think that they know what the culture of their organization is when they declare what the culture is. It's very like 90s Franklin Covey. They have a mission statement. They get their standards, their ideals and values together, and then they put it up in the break room, and no one looks at it. No one sees it. In HR, we talk about you put it up on the walls, but it's not in the halls where the employees are. It's culture adoption that matters. You can't just declare what culture is. Employees have to own that culture. A long time ago, I was a youth motivational speaker. I would go into middle schools and high schools across the United States and Canada, and I would do anti-bullying presentations. I would help teens learn how to be resilient. I'd help them have more empathy for their peers, and just overall, how to handle life's challenges. It was the best job. It was also the hardest job. Because if you have any teens in your life, you know that they can be the most cynical and pessimistic audience that you could ever speak to. I mean, imagine this, right? You're at school, principal gets on the microphone.
Ladies and gentlemen, please head to the auditorium for an anti-bullying assembly.
They roll their eyes. They trudge down to the auditorium. 1,000 high schoolers come into the room, and then the principal hands me a microphone. You have 1 hour to educate and inspire these teens. Ready, go. No pressure. Can I just give you a little taste of how I engaged teens? Is that all right? I'm sorry. I can't believe we're doing this with adults right now. This is hilarious. Some of you guys just woke up out of your nap. You're like, lunch again? What? Let's do this.
Faster! Are you ready?
Thank you, thank you.
You guys are too great. This is fun. I really like the phones going up. We're like, what's happening right now? You got a yes over here? Yeah, I like that feeling. I would feel so good getting off the stage. And I knew that I had inspired the teens. I knew that we had a lot of fun. I knew that I left my message, and I had impacted the culture for good. And then I would come back a year later and find out nothing changed. I would come back the next year, and in some cases, the school culture was worse. I learned the hard way that a 1-hour presentation by itself doesn't have the power to shape the culture of the school. And a lot of leaders really get excited about these one-off culture initiatives. They bring in a ping pong table, they cater lunch, they offer daycare, they're all really nice perks, and it feels good for a moment. But underneath, the culture still sucks. It doesn't feel right. So I got smart. I started changing up my approach. It wasn't necessarily about the assembly. It was doing consulting with the principal and the administrative staff and say, here's how you put together a strong culture. I would do teachers in services with the teachers, and we would talk about social and emotional learning in the classroom. I would do a parents' night where we'd sit down with the parents and we'd say, here's how your teen is using technology. Here's how to have an open conversation in the home about it. Here's how you can find a balance between trust and control with your student. One of the most important meetings that I would do was with the student leaders. I would bring all the student leaders into one room. They'd all sit down, and then I would dismiss any of the leadership, the advisors, the principal, out the door. And I would just sit down with the teens like this. And I would say, talk to me. What's it like to go to school here? And because I had built up a little bit of trust, they would talk to me. They would show me the social media posts. They would show me the messages in the group chat. Some of it was really bad, you guys. Some of it still makes me cry, knowing that some of these students were going through that. And we get to this point where I say, all right, what are we going to do about this? We really have two options. The first is I can invite the principal into the room and tell him. And then the adults, they can set policies and procedures, probably take your phone away. Is that what you want, students? Some of you have teenagers, I know it. Absolutely not. And I said, okay, here's our second option. What are we going to do about it? You're the leaders. This is your school, and I know it doesn't feel good. So what are we going to do to fix it? And by the time we would invite the principal and the leaders back into the room, we had a working draft of the culture of the school, and it was led by the students. Do you see that power? Students have that power. Employees have that power. Josh Burson, who's big in the HR world, states that only 1 in 10 organizations are bringing employees to the table to build out a culture experience. That's got to change. Imagine if we're not talking to our customers. Can we build a great product? And yet we're not talking to our employees. And finally, the power of sharing your experience. I know we talked about kind of the macro version of it all, like Ellen DeGeneres and some of these more like exciting moments, but what about the micro moments every single day that employees share their experience? It happens a lot. I lived in Boston for 6 years. I lived in New York for 3 years. I'm sure it's the same here. If you want to go to a restaurant, you don't look at the website. How many of you actually trust the website that the restaurant, your experience at the restaurant will be the same as what their website looks like? Probably no one. I mean, just look at this. This is a pizza place in Boston. It looks great. Look at that pizza. It's probably a stock footage. Like, that's fine, but I don't think that's reflective of my experience. What I really want to see is the Yelp reviews. I can go to the Yelp reviews and see 58 reviews and 3 stars is not great. Does that pizza look tasty? No. I can read the reviews and see that a lot of people got food poisoning recently. Absolutely not going to this restaurant. We don't trust websites anymore because we know it's their best foot forward. Same thing with organizations. If you're looking for a job, we have a thing called an employer brand where they put their best foot forward. They have this website with happy employees, working the grill. This is the best day of my life. I don't trust that anymore. Or how about this? How do you know within a split second that a product on Amazon is good? How do you know? You've never even seen the product. You're just looking at a picture of it. And yet you know I'm probably going to have a great experience. It's because of the reviews, right? If you see this amazing product that has 4.5 stars, 4,000 reviews, this is the best pillow ever. You just know it. That's the power of customer experience. I think we all understand that. I'm making the argument for employee experience. It's no different, and we need to be implementing that. If I'm an employee, I'm smart. I'm going to go read the reviews on Glassdoor. They're available now, and some employees don't hold back. Or if you're shopping a job around, LinkedIn is extremely transparent. You can get on LinkedIn, you can find the department and the team that you'll be working with. And you can just shoot a quick message. Yo, How's it like to work here? Is it something that I should do? And employees will be honest with you because they know what it feels like on the inside. They know what it's like to get hired. They know what it's like to get to month 6 and how people start to treat you. And they can tell you exactly how they feel. I don't know if you can read this, but it says run. Transparency leads to accountability of leaders, and they can't just say, I'm in power, because employees have power. So what do we do about this? Employee experience design, just like customer experience design. But let's talk about the do's and don'ts real quick. The things that you should not do as a leader is walk down this path of productivity. Productivity has been the gold standard for how well employees are at the organization. We care about how productive they are, how much money they're making for us. It's all about productivity, or at least it was. But it's changing now. Productivity, this is what experience design looks like if you're only focused on productivity. I'm going to track the hours of my employees. I'm going to count their keystrokes on their emails or do sentiment analysis. Facial recognition is a real thing now, and you can tell if employees are happy or not. We're going to get one of those. They have chairs now that will track the weight of you sitting in it to know how much of a break you're taking at home. There are tools out there now that will take a screenshot of your computer at random hours and send it to your boss so he can see what you're working on and what your favorite show on Netflix is. You see this path that I'm walking down. Ask every time, employees, do you like this? No, and they're walking that way. This is not a communicative experience. This is not two-way. This is me being the boss, telling you what to do, and you have to do it. No, we don't. I'm out of here. I'm not doing that because I know what I'm worth. How many of you are like creatives? You're designers. You're out there pounding the pavement and you know what you're doing, but then your boss changes something because of their preference. Or they have very interesting ways of telling you that you need to get this done. This happens all the time, right? This is just on fire. Can we just please get this out in the next 24 hours, please? You're like, okay. And you keep doing that to the point where you're like burned out now. It's like, no, you can't treat me like this. I know my craft. I know what I'm worth. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go do something else. So the standard has changed. Employees experience design is very different of what it looked like. So at the Work3 Institute, this is our company. Deborah Perry-Pashoni is going on right after me. I'm so excited for you to meet her. She's amazing. She's going to be talking a little bit about the metaverse and branding in the metaverse. But we're co-founders at the Work3 Institute. This is the productivity fulfillment matrix that we take all of our customers through. It's not about just productivity. It's about fulfillment with the employees. And we want to know where in the matrix they fall. Just take a look at some of this, right? Low productivity, low fulfillment, that's a dysfunctional organization. That's the psychological survivalists. They're just hanging on. Low productivity, high fulfillment, it's unproductive. These are the happy non-workers. They're out there having a good time with their friends at work, but they're not getting anything done. High productivity versus low fulfillment is forced engagement. These are the burnout sufferers. Yes, they're getting the paycheck that feels nice, but how long can you keep running at a job like that? Why do you think sales experiences so much turnover? That's where they're at. We believe that sustainable high performers can be optimized with high productivity and high fulfillment. We have to create experiences that they love. If not, they're going to leverage their power to leave. So I just want 3 slides. That's all I want to get through in the next few minutes here of how we can do this right. The first is develop a listening strategy. If you're not listening to your people, and I'm assuming that in this room we could do a lot of work with that based on the hands that I saw raised, just listen to them. Hear their experience. Create a trusting environment where they can talk to you. You can use one of these employee engagement tools to collect that feedback, but make sure that that doesn't jeopardize your relationship with the employee. Hold one-on-ones. HR will talk about this all day. The number one thing that you can do to increase engagement in your organization today is to hold regular one-on-ones. 45 minutes. Sit down with an employee, say, what's going on? How does it feel like to work here? And shut up. Just listen to them. If you listen to them, you will glean insights that will change the way that you do your business, that will change the way that you develop your products. It's incredible what can happen. And finally, just make sure that we are acting on those insights. It's one thing to understand that, oh, this is the problem, but we got to do something about it. Individualize the work experience. Gone are the days of cookie cutter, one size fits all, 9 to 5. Because some employees are crushing it from 9 p.m. till midnight. Some employees got to pick up their kids in the middle of the day. Some employees like to start with a walk to get those creative juices flowing. We need to adapt to their schedule. So individualize those schedules, implement custom career plans. Career development is very high on the spectrum as well. And just make sure that we are giving the employees the individual care that they need. And finally, focus on partnerships. Work is not a contract. Work is a relationship. If you treat it like a contract, your employees will treat it like a contract. It's a partnership. What can I do for you? This is what I need from you. You bring something to the table too. Let's look at the resources. Let's work on it together. It's a partnership. And so we need to embrace this new mindset and understand that we can do this. All right. Last slide. Employee power is your competitive advantage. I hope that I have at least sparked some ideas for you. If you are a leader, like, oh, here's some things that we could be doing better. If you're an employee, you might sit back and think, oh, this is the power that I have at the organization. And I understand the economy is all over the place. And it's just an excuse for leaders to go back to the way it was. I'm the boss. You're the employee. I've got all the power. You do what I say or you can leave. It's not okay. It's not how it should be. We're human beings. We have amazing talents that we want to share with the world. So let's unlock those gifts and share them. Like I said, at the Work3 community, we love to chat with you. If any of you guys have more questions, feel free to check it out. Hit that QR code. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you, see where you fall on the matrix. If you just have questions about anything, we are super on social media, at Josh Dreen, at Deborah Perry Pashoni. Would love to have conversations with you, so definitely check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having me.